I think I owe you an apology. This is pretty serious, and I mean, I made a genuine mistake and didn't realize how big of a mistake it was or how detrimental it was to you. It was a legitimate mistake. So I'm going to explain some things, and I'm going to actually go way back into my life so you can get a thorough understanding of why I did what I did, and maybe you'll understand my mistake. Not that I'm trying to justify what I did. It was completely wrong. And I don't know if you could ever forgive me. I wouldn't forgive me if I were you, but at least you'll know where I was coming from, that it was a genuine mistake. I was a big fan of the band Kiss. I'm sure everybody remembers Kiss back in the day. I was in second grade, and my mom and I went outside the ticket booth early in the morning or late at night, whatever, and we stayed there all night. I remember it was pretty cold and miserable. And she got us tickets to go to see the Kiss concert. Now, as I was growing up, I always thought, boy, that was pretty risky. I mean, you don't send kids out to a concert like that. But then when I had my own daughter, I brought her to a concert also. The Jonas Brothers and Pearl Jam, Candlebox. So, I mean, there was a few of them that I took my daughter to, and I realized, oh, it's not so bad what my mother did. I thought it was always just like real risque. You shouldn't have done that, but it's okay. But the thing is Mom got sick and couldn't take me to the concert. So my parents' friend, Wally, who I recall being younger than my dad and mom, took me. He took his girlfriend and his little brother. Well, when I got there, everybody was standing on their chairs. We were like in the front row, nearly, like 6 rows back. I mean, it was really good seats. But when you're small in second grade, you couldn't see anything. So I'm looking between legs, trying to watch the concert. And I'm taking pictures. And when we developed the pictures, yeah, back then you developed the pictures. I'm sure you remember that. All you could see was legs. You couldn't see anybody in the concert. Well, Wally finally let me go out in the aisle and take some pictures of Kiss. So I got a couple there. And then finally, Wally allowed me to get on his shoulders, and I could see the concert from his shoulders. Of course, he had to put his brother up on his shoulders too, so we didn't get to do it very long. From what I remember, and I don't blame Wally whatsoever. Wally's agreement was, if you give me the tickets, I'll take your kid to the concert. But he didn't say he had to treat me good. So I was a big fan of Kiss, as you can obviously tell. I remember I was such a big fan of it. I have 2 sets of grandparents, obviously. My maternal grandparents, my paternal grandparents. And my maternal grandparents was out shopping, and I don't think I'd ever asked them for anything, ever. But they were just the sweetest people. They would buy you the world if they could. And I've thought about this a lot. Now that I'm old enough, I could be a grandparent. Would I have done the same thing? And the answer is yes, I would have done the same thing. We were, I don't know, like at a drugstore or a Walmart or something, and they had all the albums of Kiss on different stands. All 4 of them. I think there was 4 in the band. Regardless, I wanted Gene Simmons, and I asked for it, and I actually felt guilty for asking. Old people, of course, old people, now I'm their age, buying Kiss, but they looked a little confused, like maybe they shouldn't, a strange painted person. Maybe Mom and Dad wouldn't have approved of this, but they did. They went ahead and bought it for me. Now, the thing is when I got it home, I had this little box record player. It's like a lunchbox. You carry it around, maybe a suitcase, and it never had a good needle on it. And so, of course, you take the record out of the sleeve, very gentle not to scratch it. You gently set it on this suitcase, and first thing you did is you just ran a scratch right through it. So now the entire time you play, you always got this one spot where it goes, or you got this one spot where it just never gets past. It just continuously repeats itself. So you got this old suitcase, and I'm trying very hard to listen to it, and of course the speaker's just junk on it, and you got your ear up to it, and it's crackly, the song's playing. But it was the best thing in the world. Genuinely the best thing in the world at that time was that record and that little suitcase record player. Eventually, I got Mom's stereo. For some reason, I believe I got Mom's stereo, but I don't understand how it all worked out. In my mind, my memory is goofed up on this. And I was able to play that record on there. And it was much better. It had 2 speakers. Later in life, I got a boom box. Now, this boom box was just like the biggest boom box in the world. It had one speaker on it, played a tape, little cassette tape, and had a radio on it. And it recorded. That was really cool too. Now, all the radio stations that I liked were in St. Louis, and we were about 100 miles away from St. Louis. I was in the upstairs bedroom. My bedroom was upstairs, so I would try to get this radio antenna just pointed in the right perfect direction so I could get St. Louis radio station. It wasn't the famous radio station that's in St. Louis, but it was this 103, and they played all the modern 80s music, and boy, but again, it was that one speaker. You just it was the greatest thing in the world. I'm sure you all have memories of this too. I mean, it was great to have it. I mean, of course, you had all those huge boom boxes everybody had back then, but I had a boom box. We'd play basketball, and I'd play it, set it out there like I was really good at basketball and had all this music. Well, eventually, I got in my teens, and I got a Walkman. Now, the Walkman was not a cassette player. It was just a radio. And it never tuned very well. But when it did tune, you got in stereo. Both your phones would play at the same time. Oh, that was just the coolest thing in the world. The only time I could really play it is when I went down to Dad's house, because Mom lived 100 miles away, so it didn't have an antenna, so it wasn't really that great unless we wanted to play country and western, which I'm not criticizing country and western. I just wasn't a big country and western fan when I was 13. So when I go down towards Dad's house, it had more pop. Back then, the Madonna, Michael Jackson, those kind of bands. One time I was visiting Dad and went over to Grandpa's house. Now, this is his father. His father was not near as grandparent-y as Mom's parents. He was pretty cold. He just was not a loving grandfather. Don't get me wrong, there isn't a thing in the world he wouldn't have done for you. I mean, he would shirt off the back, the whole thing. But when it came to that boiling a child, he was not into that. You go out there and you do your work and you do your chores. I mean, I remember when I was growing up that in the fall time, they would always schedule tree cutting time for the weekends that I was down. So, of course, I could help drag off the brush and put the logs in the back of the wagon. Grandpa wasn't into all this technology. I mean, he's playing his Perry Como on his radio. And it was the best thing, I guess it was Perry Como. I have no idea what he listened to, but it was always that, what kind of music are you listening to? So I go over to his house one time with that Walkman. Now, he lived out in the country, but still closer to St. Louis than Mom did. So occasionally, if you stood in the right part of the house, you could get that green light on that Walkman, which meant that you had in stereo. And I'm really listening to it, and he can hear the music. Of course, he's a chiropractor and a naturalist, and he's like, turn that music down. He says, let me hear what you're listening to. And I've never seen my grandpa smile. Never once did I ever see him smile. And he just grinned because it was in stereo. And he took it off, and he says, that is the most amazing thing I've ever heard. He says, the music just fills your head. He says, I don't like it, and he threw the thing down. Then as we grew older, technology got better, computers got better. Then we got the iPad, the iPod. I remember the dog got a hold of my daughter's iPod, and they were pretty expensive. She loved it so much that I just had to grin and bear it and go get her another one. But now today, I mean, everybody's got the best technology. Everybody's got the best. The phones, even the junky phones. Mine's a junky phone. I think mine was $50. It can play music. When we were kids and listened to that little Walkman trying to get a green light so we could have in stereo music, or that as a vinyl went around, it's just absolutely magic what they have done to improve the quality of sound. Now I make YouTube videos, and it's all pretty simple. I have this GoPro 9 camera. It's a really nice camera. Man, I love this camera. I can bounce all around, and the picture stays stable. There's none of that jerkiness. I can get on my lawnmower and cut the whole grass. Doing this the whole time, and it looks perfectly stable. It's quite incredible. I really like it. It's one of these sports cameras, the things you see on people's forehead, head helmets when they're skydiving and doing backflips and everything. That's the camera, and it's not that expensive. I mean, expensive, but for having a YouTube channel as part of your career, it's not that expensive. We could have spent a lot more money on a lot bigger cameras, but I can come out here and do all kinds of things with it. It goes underwater. It's got a water mod where I can take it like 30 feet down, and it's completely waterproof. Of course, the sound, there's no way to get sound to it. It's just camera. And then you have to buy a sound mod or a mic mod or whatever you want to call it, so you can have a microphone. Now these things are a little bit expensive. I have a broken one here. Right now I would love to show you all the equipment, but I'm literally talking into the camera and the mod and all that. So this is a camera mic mod, and so the camera, well, it's upside down, slides into this thing, and there's a little thing that plugs into right there. This one's got a broken door, so the door is literally missing, but that door is supposed to close. And then on the back side, you can plug in your mic right there. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a little plug for your mic. And I make sure I buy a good mic, a lapel mic. Of course, it's wired. One of these days, I've thought about it. Should I get a wireless? I might, I don't know. Now, the mic mod, that piece of plastic, is $80 a piece. And they last like a week. That's an exaggeration. This last one has lasted about a year. And then the door broke on it. Now these mics, the slightest little bumps on them can really damage them. I have one here, and what it is it's, in order for it to work on this camera, it has a two-piece setup. There is actually two pieces there. I can separate the two pieces. Of course, I'm trying to do all this one-handed. So there's two pieces. And the slightest little bumps break those. So you got to be very careful not to break them. Now that's $13, and I always try to have a spare one available, always, because I know they break. Well, the other day, the door broke on the mic mod. I thought, well, that's not a big deal. It's not like I'm out here doing a bunch of fancy stuff. I don't want to spend another $80. I can still slide the camera in there, and it still works. And it was working. Well, I dropped the camera the other day, and the mic, the two-piece thing I just showed you, broke. So I immediately put on a new mic, because like I said, I always have a spare mic. I don't have a spare mic mod because those are $8. I'd rather not have a spare. My spare is I keep the broken ones and I can use them temporarily until I get a new one. So I got the new mic put on and started recording videos again. No big deal. $13. It was staticky. I thought it was the mic mod. So I got another damaged mic mod because I've ordered one, but I don't have it here yet. So I had another one that was damaged. The door broke, but used it on my second video. So I've made 2 videos now with damaged equipment. Now, remember, the mic was new. Made the second video, and it was staticky. In the first video, I got tons of complaints. People, I'm just unsubscribing from you. I can't stand all that staticky noise. Well, when I edited the video, I didn't hear any staticky noise, and I still don't hear any staticky noise. Well, when I made the second video is when I realized what people were really complaining about. What they were complaining about is the left side wasn't working correctly. Turned out it was a bad mic. My new mic was a bad mic. I bet 80 people unsubscribed from my channel that day. I'm just not listening to this garbage anymore. I can't hear in the left side of my earbuds. You need to get some real equipment. You're a cheap, all that kind of stuff. And I'm sitting here thinking, wait a minute. You come to an off-grid channel and expect to watch a free video and have the best equipment provided to you. Now, why are you watching an off-grid channel? Well, you are watching an off-grid channel because this off-grid channel talks about minimalizing your life, getting back down to basics, not worrying about having in stereo music. Don't get me wrong, it's great, but I'm a commentator. You don't need to have in stereo. It's like listening to AM radio. I mean, it's not that bad, but no, we got to have it in stereo. Otherwise, I'm unsubscribing. I mean, what are we listening to? Kiss? Well, go get a vinyl. I cannot believe the pettiness of people coming to an off-grid channel so they can experience how to live off-grid. out here in the woods with a very limited amount of electricity, very limited amount of water, very limited amount of heat, you know, all the very small house, all these things, and this is how I want to live. I want to live minimalistically. But if you're going to provide me with a video, it better be in stereo so I can have my left and right channels working correctly. How petty. Because they are not serious about a minimalistic off-grid lifestyle. So if you can click this up next box, take to a video where I was talking about something in static, I'm sure. So I hope I can inspire you to seriously think about being a minimalist so you don't have to worry about the left channel working in your earbud. So you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.